Hello, folks. Welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. This time, I hope it will be the third part and the final part in this chapter about the Uniform Civil Code. Now, a lot has been heard. We will say, we keep hearing, what will Muslims say? Why should we allow this and that and so on? It's against Islam apparently. Muslim identity will be lost. These are all excuses, if you like, or just downright lies. Nobody is telling Muslims to stop their namaz and stop their prayers in mosques and so on. No. Yes, we do object to their doing their namaz in the middle of a busy highway. We don't like that. Tomorrow somebody will start having a drink there, or maybe just having his dinner in the middle of the road. Table and all. Or maybe just put up a few beds and go to sleep there. They're taxpayers too, See, there is a time and a place for everything. In the same way, there is a time, or it is high time, to have a uniform civil code. Now. Now, we've been lied to a great deal by a lot of these Muslim organizations and so on. And I personally have heard quite often from people, well, we don't recognize any other law except Muslim law, which is rather strange. I mean, this is not a Muslim country. At least I hope we're not. And I hope we never become one. Because there are a whole lot of other things. You can see 90%, if not 95% of Muslim countries are virtual deserts. I don't think I'd like that happening here. Thank you very much. But the sort of lies we've been told, the Muslim identity will be lost. No. The Hindu identity has not been lost, nor has the Christian. All the rituals are the same. The religious practices are exactly the same as before. Yes, there are a few minor personal changes, little tweaking. But that is to be expected. As and when people get along, they grow older, we hope they grow wiser. It isn't always the case, I suppose, but we hope. Well, remember, the Constitution of India promises equality and secularism. Now, by not having a uniform civil code, both these two tenets have been smashed. They don't exist anymore. Why? See the plight of Muslim women. They are treated as less than the dirt under the feet of their Muslim menfolk. For instance, a man marries once, he can bring in a second or a third wife, and she can't say anything. If he doesn't like her, he just throws her out. No alimony, no maintenance, nothing. She can't even remarry for at least 3 or 4 months. Not just that, whom does she turn to? Usually her own family will not take her back. She doesn't have the money to go somewhere else. So what does she do? Even worse is the plight of young girls. 10, 12, 14-year-olds who are sold, and I mean sold, to rich Arab sheikhs who come in for a marriage of convenience which may last 1 day, may last 10 days. And then where does she go? Does she even know what it's all about? I mean, in Western terminology, this would be called child prostitution. Let's face that. Because that's what it is. Now, I know people may object, no, it is. You see what Thailand became famous for. A lot of Europeans used to go there for just this, child sex. Now, I don't think we would like that happening here anymore. I think enough is enough. You see, a lot of these evils I think it's time they stopped. Muslim men folk, they say, we represent Muslims. You don't represent Muslim women. You know what you do to them. You don't want that to change. Why? This is why I said Muslim men folk are up here on a pedestal, more equal than anybody else. Hindus and Christians are here somewhere, and Muslim women folk are down here somewhere. And the Constitution guarantees equality. Where is it? Secularism also means the same for everybody. All religions are the same. Are they? When Muslims have the free run to do whatever they please, literally, I'll explain that in a minute. Nobody else has? And you call that secularism? I don't know. Now Muslims keep saying that they only recognize Muslim law. Right? Which law is that? Is it the Muslim Sharia law? Do they recognize the Sharia Act of 1937? Do they acknowledge that the All India Muslim Personal Law Board's diktat is Muslim law? Or do they prefer the Deoband Group Darul Uloom? Is that their law? Which one? Or do they say the Indian Penal Code? Or the Waqf Board Act, Waqf Board law? Do they recognize that? Or the Indian Constitution? Which do they come under? Or they pick and choose whichever they want, and whichever is more convenient and more beneficial, or which lets them off most lightly. And when all else fails, they go in for the victim card. No, we're a minority, we mustn't be touched. Who says they're a minority? What is a minority? In a land which guarantees equality, secularism and democracy, why is there a minority? When all are equal, or supposed to be, which means you want to go on being more equal than anybody else. I'm sorry, that's not on. You've got to start pulling your act together, buckle down a little, and come back under the same law. The best part is this: not one of them will opt for what the Holy Quran tells them. That is lost completely. Nobody talks about it. Until, about 2 weeks ago, we first heard about this in some of the news channels. And then one of the other interviews. So the Holy Quran says certain things which no Muslim wants to follow. And this is why there should be no hurdles whatsoever when it comes to implementing the Uniform Civil Code. The Quran specifically says that every Muslim must respect and obey and live within the limits as prescribed by the law of the country in which they reside or live. Why don't Muslims follow that? When the Quran Sharif or the Holy Quran tells them to do that. Why don't they? Because it's inconvenient. It doesn't give them all sorts of privileges. Yes, the Prophet Muhammad married 6 times. But I don't think there was ever more than one wife in attendance at any time. So where do they get this idea that they can have 4 wives at a time? I mean, where did they get that from? Now, you understand all the basic problems, the lies we have been told. Now they keep saying it is all right to lie to non-Muslims because they are kafirs. Is it? Again, let's go back to the Holy Quran. It says, if you are a Muslim and respect and obey the Holy Quran and Islam, then you must respect and obey look after another man's religion in exactly the same way as you think about Islam. Because if you denigrate or run down or sling mud at another man's religion, it is the same as you have sort of denigrated or slung mud at Islam. Anybody who does that is a kafir. So if you look down your nose at somebody else's religion, you're looking down your nose at Islam also. Therefore, by doing that, you become a kafir. Now nobody will tell you that. Why? Because it's inconvenient. It stops them having a free run of everything. Because at the moment, they claim they don't come under any Indian laws. If so, what are they doing here? If you're an Indian citizen, you better bring yourself under the purview of the laws of the country. This is what the Holy Quran tells you. And if you don't, you can't be a citizen of this country. If you don't recognize Indian law, Pakistan and what was then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, were created just for you. Please go there. You don't belong here. I've said this a few times. And I mean it too. If you want to misbehave in India, and if you want to misbehave with Indian folk, whether they're Hindus or Christians or Sikhs or tribals or anything, you're not required here. We don't need you here. Now, why do they do these things? I'll give you another example. When you say your azan, what are you saying? Now, recently somebody translated this and said, it means there is only one true Allah, and it is haram for a Muslim to bow down to anybody else or anything else except Allah. So why do you bow down to in front of mazars or in dargahs? How do they come into being? Because I'm told if you go to Saudi Arabia, you won't find a single solid grave. That is also supposed to be haram. And any grave should not be above soil level, up to soil level at the most. And they must not be permanent graves. Why don't you follow that? Because at this rate, the whole of the country may be covered in graves one day. Where do you go for agriculture, food production? Now, every now and then you find people put up these mazars. And then you get another dargah coming around it and possibly another mosque. It may take 3 or 4 years, but that's what happens. Which means it is a land grab avenue or channel. Now, grabbing somebody else's land is not legal. In fact, it is criminal. Why should you not be treated as that, as a criminal? All those who bring in illegal migrants from Bangladesh and help in their settling and resettling in and around India, are they not performing criminal acts and creating problems, employment and unemployment, underemployment, food scarcity, rising prices? Remember, you're responsible. Don't blame the government, you are. Why should you not be taken to task? And then you say, I'm a victim, I'm being victimized because I'm Muslim. If you as a Muslim or as a Hindu, anybody does it, you deserve to be kicked around. As if you were a common criminal, because that's what you are. Now, as it is, a non-Muslim comes under the Indian Penal Code. So which one do you come under as a Muslim? You see, this is something I've never been able to understand. You don't respect Indian law. You don't want to come under Indian law. So which means you're a law unto yourself. You decide whatever you come under, whether you have committed a criminal act or not. So you can do anything to non-Muslim and say, no, my Quran Sharif tells me to. It doesn't. You know it and I know it. But you're still lying about it. Well, it's about time you straighten yourself out. Because the Uniform Civil Code has to come. If it doesn't, it is a great disservice to the majority of people who live in India. And it's about time you came under the same one. Whether you're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, doesn't matter. It is one country, one nation, one law. You cannot have 15 different laws in one country. Otherwise, it cannot be one country. Let's get that straight. So, which one do you come under? May I suggest, follow what the Holy Quran tells you to do. Behave yourself as a human being, as a normal citizen of the country you live in. You don't like it, you're free to go somewhere else. You go to an Islamic country, Sharia law is enforced there, but you don't want that. Why? Because if you're caught stealing, your hand comes off, and everybody sees and knows from that moment on, you're a thief. You can't be trusted. That stamp will be on you forever. You don't want that. So you take the Indian Penal Code. Maximum 6 months, few people will know about it. You see, you can't pick and choose, I'm sorry. There is one law, you come under it. So please understand, it's time. That time has come. You're no longer a super privileged person in this country. Come down to earth and be a normal citizen. Thanks, folks. I hope I'm not being too biased for or against, but these are facts of life which I have personally come across in many times. And believe me, I've lived a long time and I've seen a great deal, which very few people are privileged to have come across. I'm not saying I'm special, no. It's just that I've noted these things as and when I went along. A lot of people don't. They see, experience and forget. Fortunately, I had a reasonably good memory. And I'm giving you folks the benefit of that memory. Thank you, folks, and please do endorse and support the Uniform Civil Code. We do need it. And we need it now. Thanks, folks. Please send it on to your friends, your relatives, anybody you want to your groups. Ask them to send it on to their groups. Because I think it's important that all of us understand. You can't go around with your head sunk in the sand and say, no, there's no problem, I don't see anything. Let's stop being ostriches and grow up and be men. Thanks, folks. Ciao.